Transport. Back to when you were 10 years old. What was that dream? What was that thing that you thought would define who you would become today? Fast forward. Are you anywhere near close? The hard truth is that most of us never make it there. About 60 to 70% of people will never become what they truly envision when they're younger. And so for me, that disconnect began in December of 2016 in Tallahassee, Florida, at the Florida State University. I was sitting in an auditorium, just like this, and person after person, I remember sitting in that crowd, and each person was crossing that stage, and they were all met with cheers and applause. But as I was sitting in that crowd, this overwhelming sense of nostalgia started to rush in. Flashbacks of the past 4 years started to come in. Tailgates, late nights with friends, spontaneous road trips. And I mean, who could forget that 2014 National Football Championship that we took home? Go Noles. And as I was sitting in that crowd, I was met with this overwhelming weight of the unknown. And it was as if the stage just started to get closer and I started to feel smaller. And me, I'm 5'9", so it was real hard to feel small. But that moment was fleeting. My name was called. And just like that, college was over. I thought I did everything right. I mean, I went to college, I got the job, I got the degree. The American dream, right? So I went after that American dream. I packed up my car and I left my hometown of sunny South Florida, where I would leave these palm trees and sunny skies, to drive 19 hours to Springdale, Arkansas, where I would be met with chicken coops and fields. And I mean, it made sense. Yeah, I was going to work for the chicken company. And that chicken company offered me $60,000. And to me, in that moment, it would have took me anywhere around the country, because baby, that check, that was the one. That was the one that gave me success. That was the one that gave me the validation that I needed in that moment. But what I was overlooking was, in college, I had started my first business. And I learned vendor relationships. I learned e-commerce and web marketing. And I learned, most importantly, I knew how to generate profit. But at that moment, I looked at it like a side hustle. I looked at it as something I would just do to put a little extra money in my pocket, being a broke college student. And I mean, do some things we're not gonna talk about that I did on spring break, right? But I went after that first job, and there were subtle shifts that started to occur. And I remember waking up every day with this overwhelming sense of dread. And the job was cool, the people were nice, but deep down inside, I knew that I was not fit to be in this environment. And I started observing my surroundings, and I started realizing that the people in this company were there in the same job, in the same roles for 10, 20, 30 years at a time. And I said, God, I know you didn't call me all the way out here to stay at this job and die for the next 40 years. That is not in the plans. And so what started happening was I started realizing I was supposed to be doing something that lit me up. I was supposed to be doing something that invigorated me. But what started happening was I started clocking in and slowly losing bits and pieces of myself. And that was the first time in my life my belief system broke down. Not belief in that job, but belief in me. And it was as if that girl in college just didn't exist anymore. The girl who ran the business, the girl who knew how to make profit, that girl, she knew how to make something work. But where did she go? So I started listening to her again, that version of myself. And I remember my mom was moving and she was going through some boxes and she gave me a call. She said, "You would not believe what I found." I said, "Girl, what you found?" And she told me she had found my childhood journal, and it was this small journal, this polka dot journal. And when I opened it, I couldn't believe what I found. It was filled with dreams and affirmations and all these business plans and goals. And at 10 years old, I was writing about profit margins. At 10 years old, I was writing about starting my own business here. Here I was, running and chasing after someone else's blueprint. That journal wasn't just cute. That journal wasn't just nostalgic. That journal was the exact evidence that I needed in that moment of my life to prove to me that I had been called and designed to be exactly who I was way before the world decided to tell me who I was going to be. I didn't have to believe in the version of success that the world had created and the foundations of what they desired, but now I had to start listening to the version of success that had been pulling me back to who I was all along. I got tired of success that felt like comfort in a cage. And I decided to make a plan to leave corporate America, not just emotionally, but financially. And I realized in that moment that if I was going to truly align with my gifts and my purposes and all the things that I realized about myself, that I was going to have to stop outsourcing my beliefs to be jobs, paychecks, and titles. This time, I was going to have to believe in me. And I'll be honest, building something from scratch was not easy. That's when the doubt comes in. That's when the insecurities start to come in, right? That's when the failed first business didn't work, and now I'm trying and I'm trying again. But I kept trying, and this next business that I designed, this one was special. This one that I founded, this company, was different because what happened was I started to help people do the same exact thing I had done. I trained them in sales, how to make sales. I trained them in their career pivots, and most importantly, I started to help people unlock these gifts and skills that they truly didn't know that they had. And within 3 months, that job started paying me more than any corporation could. And so the question begs, how do you believe in yourself again when the world has told you not to? Here are some of the things that I've learned. Number one, silence the noise. It is impossible to hear your voice and your thoughts and your truth when you are constantly tuned in to what everybody else in the world is telling you. The world will always have an opinion, but it is going to be your belief that shapes your reality. Number two, find the evidence. We don't need reminders of who we are, but sometimes we really do need the proof that it has been in us all along. What is that childhood journal? What is that dream? What is that thing that you loved before the world told you it was not practical? Because that was not a fantasy. That was you before you had been edited. Number three, take one aligned action. Because you see, belief is about movement. It is about a momentum. And it is not about just running and just jumping off a cliff, but it is about taking one step in the direction that you do know to be true, not because you're ready, but because you know that it's meant for you. So, I stand here today, not as somebody who has always believed, but somebody who found the ability to rediscover what it is like. And I hope that my stories and my experiences help you to understand that it is not about pulling from the outsources and outsourcing everything around you, but it's about pulling from everything that you have within that has been stored and deposited within you. Because the truth is, belief is not just a feeling. Belief is your power. Belief is your identity. And belief is your new beginning. And I stand here today And I ask you, if you chose today to start believing in yourself again, how would your life look different? Thank you.